Hi everyone, this is Tom Wolf, your instructor, and I thought that this week I'd like to do a little video critique of all your work so that you can see what your classmates have been doing and we can talk a little bit more in depth about some of the things that are going on in your images. So first of all, we have Brendan's shot, and by the way, this is assignment 4.2, which is your depth of field and light assignment here. And in the first shot, Brendan has a large depth of field, and what I really love about this image is that we've got this very long, beautiful line from the pathway that very much draws the viewer's eye into the photograph and takes them right down to the brink of the falls. The lighting in here, as Brendan indicates in his notations, is definitely soft lighting. I do think the light here has kind of a blue cast to it, which certainly can be appealing. If we were going to work with this image a little bit in Photoshop, the one thing that I kind of love here is that beautiful sky. And I think we could probably bring that color out in the sky a little bit by just doing a curves adjustment layer, which would be something like this. And then I invert it by hitting the Command and I button on my Photoshop keyboard shortcuts. And then I'm taking a paintbrush, and if you notice in this window we've got the mask that is on that layer as being black. So I'm going to make sure I select a white brush, and then I'm just going to paint some of that color back into the sky there. And I think that helps out. And I probably would even do maybe the same thing with the ground here in the foreground. Again, making a new adjustment layer, raising those high or those darks in the curves adjustment, and then just painting them in something like this. So that was our after shot, and that's our before shot. So darkening up the sky, lightening up that foreground. But excellent depth of field image here, or large depth of field image. I think that works great for this assignment. And then of course the small depth of field image. Again, I think you've mastered the technique here. Certainly the candle in the foreground is out of focus, and the ones behind it are in focus. A couple things here about this image. It feels like to me it should be more of a a vertical image rather than a horizontal image. Something that, perhaps looks a little bit like this versus the horizontal here. I think that kind of echoes the pattern that these candles are lined up in. The other small minor detail, and again it's a real minor detail, but I think this, I don't know if it's another candle holder in the background or whatever this object is, it kind of cuts through the edge of the frame here in sort of a half in, half out kind of way. And I think I'd probably like to either exclude it entirely, so if you can move the candle, great. If not, then perhaps try reframing the image so it's not so prominent, especially because it's got this little reflection on it. I think it pulls our eye away from the main subject area, which is right here. So, from a technical perspective, good job again with small depth of field. But just some minor refinements here as we're looking at making a cleaner frame. And so our second group of images come from Matthew. In his first shot here, he uses this object in the foreground here to kind of create a frame within a frame and encircle this object that's in the distance. By using an f-stop of 4, he is able to make this go out of focus. And of course he's moved closer to it with the camera, so also that has made that out of focus. And then in the background we've got this pergola or whatever that place is in the background. So certainly a very technically sound image, works for our small depth of field, really love the composition of it and the way he uses that framing element to draw our attention to that subject in the background. So all in all, good job with this image. Your large depth of field image, I really like the whimsical aspect of it, sort of like this doorway that's in the middle of a stone fence, and there's almost a little bit of mystery to what's behind that. And I actually also find having these leaves in the foreground really balance this photograph out nicely, and that they kind of interplay with this. The one thing that I would add here is I wouldn't necessarily say this image is a large depth of field shot. These leaves aren't entirely in focus. If we go into your file info and check out the settings that you did on here, you can see this photograph was taken with an f-stop of 8. And an f-stop of 8 really is